There's something that I find curious about comparisons between electric and internal combustion cars. Um, like I often see Lewis Rossman is a good example of this, and I think it's just because he doesn't know about cars. I'm not, because he doesn't. He does. He just doesn't know about cars. So it's I'm not flaming him or anything like that. But like the comparison of like what's dangerous? Why are we worried about um, the things in electric cars when we weren't worried about internal combustion cars, or why we tolerate the manufacturer saying you can't open this, you can't touch this, you can't work on this, when on your old GTO nobody would tolerate that. Like, yeah, gonna we're gonna customize and modify and tinker with the carburetor and tinker with the ECU and whatever on our internal combustion cars. But when it comes to a Tesla, you better follow the rules. You better do what they say. Um, like part of the reason the formulation of that argument is looking at, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the electrical system in these cars is it can kill you, but you're also talking about cars with flammable gasoline. Why not look at the electrical system in an IC car, right? What is the battery, the car battery, the starter battery? It's literally a heavy box, which you could easily drop and, break your foot if it falls on your foot. You can injure yourself with just dropping that bastard because it's pretty heavy. And what it's filled with is toxic lead, lots of toxic lead. You to the point that the electrodes that are sticking out that you handle when you are starting or when you are jump starting a car or you know installing the battery. That's also lead. It's just pure lead sitting there that you're handling with your bare hands, probably. Um, and the electrolyte is sulfuric acid. So that's deadly. That'll fuck you up if you come in contact with that. So why aren't we worried about this? And it easily produces 100 or so volt or amps at about a dozen volts. We're not worried about getting shocked by this. Or what about the distributor? Right? You ever unplugged the wires on a distributor while the car is running? You ever been shocked with 2,500 volts off a distributor? That's not it's not a pleasant experience. I can tell you. Or we don't worry about that. You don't worry about changing your spark plugs. You can go to any Walmart or freaking most gas stations and buy spark plugs and go change your spark plugs in the freaking parking lot, right next to a gas pump in some cases. This isn't a thing that we're concerned about, but you're concerned about similar amperages and voltages in an electric car? Why? Right? Like, if, the voltage going through a spark plug is about 6 to 10 times the voltage going through a Tesla Model Y, or Tesla Model X, or Tesla Model 3. Like, they're all right around 350, give or take 50 volts. And the spark plug is producing something like 2,500 volts. Like, you know how you test a spark plug just to see if the damn thing is working? You have it out. You have it out. in the open. You're holding it with your bare hand. And you're seeing if it'll make a spark. That's how you test a spark plug. We're not worried about this. This is a thing that you do. This is a thing that you do when you're taking care of your car correctly. So yeah, I think we should make these apples to apples sorts of comparisons when we're talking about, the right to repair, electric cars and whatever, and like, yeah, you have gasoline, but you don't handle gasoline, right? You do handle the battery. You do handle the spark plugs. You handle the electrical components in the car, which are producing or involved in with the similar sorts of electrical, voltages and amperage as you're going to see in an electric car. But we're not worried about it when it's with an ICE car. We're worried about it when it's an electric car, right? Or like with a phone, right? What's the battery voltage on a phone? You ever like take head of a phone battery in your hand and just touch the contacts with your finger? Can't even feel it. Shit's not dangerous. Yeah, the lithium ion thing decides to rupture and yeah. There's a fire. Okay, that's fun. But that's going to happen whether you're... It's not happening because you're touching it. It's not happening because you opened it. I have an iPhone 4S that is doing its best to explode. The battery, it's never been opened. The machine has never been opened. Right? It's only been dropped a couple times. Considering how old that phone is and how much use I got out of it, it was treated very well. It was never opened, and the battery is still doing its best to destroy itself. So that's actually just the technology. Like, if it's not because people are handling it, it's not because people are opening it, it's not because of the way people are dealing with it. It's because of that's just the risk in having such high energy densities in such a small package with such high energy densities. That's how that works, right? We want to move forward into a future with even higher energy densities. Well, you better believe if that thing fails, it's going to be a problem. It's going to blow up. It's going to do something, right? Your lead acid battery, if it cracks and leaks, well, the acid will eat everything. That's how the energy in that manifests. I actually had this my Volvo, when I got it, it clearly had damage from something like this. Right? Like it had been in. It looks like a very, very minor impact on the front driver's side where the battery is. The battery is like that very front corner, and there's no frame damage or anything. It was very minor impact, but what it clearly did was it cracked the battery, and that battery just leaked all over everything, and it ate. So right next to the battery is the airbox. It ate half of the airbox. It just melted it. Just ate it. It's crazy. I still have it, I think. It's crazy looking. I had to replace it so that the car would breathe correctly. But there's also like some of the metal in that area, like it kind of ate through it. That's how that manifests in a lead acid battery. You break open one of those, and the acid is how that energy is expressed. With something like a lithium-ion battery, you rupture it, and you get fire. That's how that energy is expressed. So it's expressed differently, but it's really the same sort of thing. It's a dangerous object because of its energy density. But what if We just package the batteries more intelligently. Could do that. Or, like there's options here. Or just kind of like at some point you accept the risk. Like, you know, you can shock the fuck out of yourself changing spark plugs. You kind of have to be an idiot to do it, but it's possible. Similarly, you can shock the fuck out of yourself opening your phone. Again, you have to be a fucking idiot, but it's possible. You can shock the fuck out of yourself working on your Tesla. Again, you have to be an idiot, but it's possible. So now my question is, why is the fear asymmetrical here? Right? Why are we allowing the fear to be asymmetrical? Now it's apples to apples. We're talking about electrocution or the risk of being shocked or, whatever. It's all involving electricity. We're not looking at the gas component. We're not, it's not different now. It's the same. It's electricity. It's in all of these cases, it's electricity now. Like, yeah, you can look at the fact that there's fire exploding inside and the pistons are moving, but that doesn't affect you because it's buried inside the block. You can't. That doesn't really. Meh. Right? The turny bits, they're round. Right? You ever touched the pulley on the crank pulley on a running engine? It doesn't really do anything because it's a circle. So like, as it's moving, there's nothing to catch you. There's nothing to injure you. It's not scary. The battery is scarier. If you really know what's happening, the battery is more terrifying. Right? Have you ever accidentally touched the two contacts on the alternator while you're working on the engine with a screwdriver? That shit's terrifying. That's way more terrifying than any of the Bernie bits, the combusty bits. Like, yeah. So I don't know. I think we should be comparing, electric to electric in terms of like really what's going on here. Like, why are we refusing, or why are we having to fight for right to repair on, electric vehicles when the things that we are totally fine repairing ourselves at home, doing, shade tree mechanic jobs and God knows what, watching a YouTube video and then going out and being like, okay, let's fix this, which I definitely do. When the electric car is actually only half of that, right? You have powerful electric motors in an ICE engine. The starter motor is pretty powerful. The alternator, which you could easily convert into an electric motor, you several horsepower at the very least, right? It's it's not like a Tesla motor quite, but you can shock the fuck out of yourself with an alternator. You can shock the fuck out of yourself with whatever, the battery coming off the distributor or the electricity coming off the distributor. So why are we more afraid of the system that has only like half of the deadly shit? That doesn't make any sense. The ICE engine has all of that and then some, but we're okay with it. The electric car has only the electricity and we're terrified of it. That's insane. What? Why? What the fuck? I feel like that's the argument that should be made because, oh, yeah, all the electric shit is already in an ICE engine. That's how you start it, with electric motors. And that's how you keep it running, with an electric generator and spark plugs that produce huge numbers of volts that Your average anybody willing to work on the car at all, you're probably willing to change out spark plugs before you're willing to do an oil change yourself. In my experience with my neighbors, I have multiple neighbors that will change their own spark plugs but won't do their own oil change. But they're also afraid to open their phone. And that's weird to me. And I think the profundity of that weirdness should be expressed by somebody, because I haven't seen anybody express that.